So I'll try to answer the multi-part question. In the last 5 years, still just a trickle of capital, commercial capital starting to come in. Some markets it's more than others. Some markets are more developed and ready. So a country like India is getting a lot more commercial capital, but it's still very small. So you need to do, when you do the math on, let's say there's 300 million unserved, unbanked, poor under $2 a day. And you multiply that by an average loan of $100, what does that equal? 30 billion. A lot of capital. So there's still, it's just a trickle today that's flowing. It's not even anywhere near that. Part of it is capital. One of the reasons capital is going to be attracted is if there's a level of sustainability. If you're someone that's bringing capital to bear, you want to know that an organization is not just going to flush that capital down the toilet. They're going to somehow be able to use that capital effectively to invest and grow and have a return on that, so that capital can then be multiplied. And if you're a bank making a loan, you want to make sure that loan can be paid back. So one of the critical issues is most of the organizations out here work with a sliver of the more than 10,000 microfinance institutions around the world. Most institutions around the world, most microfinance, the vast majority, 90%, are very small, basically mom and pop operations. And they're completely donor funded, and they generally stall in growth because they're not profitable and they run out of money. They keep running out of money. They can't expand their work. So what you're starting to see is a new crop of microfinance that is demonstrating both growth, substantial growth, and profitability, and that begets them getting access to more capital, which means they can have a bigger impact. It creates this positive. But I think the more that continues, that will start attracting capital. You're starting to see that happen with a small number of microfinance organizations, but a growing number.
Thank you. Just one more comment there is that while this is what we're doing is something that has a social impact, and we're trying to help people to live better lives. Microfinance is also, you can also think of it as an industry, and this is an industry that is now growing very rapidly, but I think it's still in the very early stages of an industry. And what do you see when you're in the early stages of an industry? You're seeing lots of changes, lots of new business models being tried. There's an awful lot of dynamics here. And it's difficult to predict exactly where things will be going. But I think we're still looking for entrepreneurs in this industry who can invent new ways of doing things, ways to get the costs way down, a lot lower than what they are now. Dr. Yunus was a tremendous visionary and entrepreneur, and we need lots more of those kind of people as the industry develops. But it's a social phenomenon, but it's also a business that's it's going through a tremendous growth.
We might only reach about 20% of the potential clients in the world today. Apart from Bangladesh, where they reach about 80% of the clients, and this is Grameen Bank and BRAC and other institutions, most of the rest of the world are very much in the early phases, and we need a lot of institution building and a lot of everybody to focus on this space. So it's got a long way to go.
So let me ask you this: can in the next 25 years, in the remotest possibility, do you think poverty can be global?
But you got to think audacious and have big goals. And I love what I saw in the paper this morning with Bill and Melinda focusing on eradicating malaria. And don't set the small goal and say we're going to do this or get 10% reduction. Just set the real big goal and then just see what happens. And I think that one of the things to remember in poverty, microfinance is one tool. It's not the silver bullet that end all fix all. You have a lot of issues related to health, you have a lot of issues related to just unrest in general, you have a lot of issues related to environment, you have a lot of issues related to education. So this is one tool. The beauty of this tool is a tool that can scale on the size of the problem itself. and it can be sustainable. But I think we can eradicate poverty if we just put our minds to it. But it really is everybody, governments, institutions, individuals, and everybody's going to start with themselves.
Chair, what is the poverty will eliminate in the next 25 years?
You know, when I think about it, what I envision is that the stigma of poverty can be eliminated in the next 25 years. And there's always going to be circumstances that have life be complex. But if we could stop looking at people in poverty as though there's something wrong or broken, and see them as people to be respected, and you know, the amount of courage that it takes to wake up every day and get through the day and get your needs met when you're living on less than $1 a day, or when you're living in an impoverished economic situation, those people are to be admired. They're not to be treated as though they're incapable. So if we as a society can shift our view to see people, all people as capable, and really see the potential in people and hold them as capable, I think that goes a long way to eliminating poverty.
Dave?
I think it's the right goal, and I think that in certain parts of the world, that goal is more the solution's more seeable than in other parts. Like you get a place like Myanmar, and you kind of go, how would that work? You know, at least as we see it now. And there's a few other places like that where there's very huge oppression that goes on. But I think what I'm encouraged by is a couple of things. One is I'm seeing more and more situations where I can see poverty, I can see the light in the tunnel, in the sense of that there's momentum towards that. And I also see, and this is one of the opportunities that we have as people, and we can encourage as well, not just personally, but we can encourage other people, is I think that this is going to be solved a lot through innovation and through entrepreneurial efforts. This is what microfinance really is about. I mean, the people that are building the microfinance institutions for having the big impact are entrepreneurs. Okay? So if and what's happening is entrepreneurs are now seeing the potential of this, creating social businesses, microfinance being the hottest one right now. There are other social businesses being created that have a social impact that is going to be transformational in giving people opportunity. So I'm very hopeful, and I see the momentum.
I think in terms of absolute poverty, I think we can eliminate absolute poverty. That is, people living below $2 a day. I think we could certainly aspire to that. And you can actually see women who are living on $2 a day, who or were living on $2 a day, who are now living on $4 a day. And $4 a day life is very different than a $2 a day life. So I'm not sure that we can ever equalize opportunities, which would be the complete elimination of poverty, but I think we can get away from absolute poverty.
Great.
It's a personal question, so I'll dodge it by saying the story of sandy beach with all the starfish, and someone walks up, throws it in the ocean. Oh, why'd you do that? Well, you saved his life. He says, well, you're not going to save all these. He says, well, it made a big difference to that one. And for those people that are impacted, you ended poverty, and it is always worthwhile. So the progress, the forward motion is worth doing.